Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/ProRevenge, where in today's episode, you'll hear 3 stories. The first, a manager tries to get OP fired, and it backfires terribly. The second story, OP's boss fires him to hire her nephew. And the last story, OP's framed by his manager, and gets some sweet revenge. My friends, I do hope you stay for the stories today, and hit that subscribe button for future stories. So, background. I work for a communications company. We primarily sell internet-based, all-in-one communication solutions for businesses. I'm in the software development department, working as a software tester currently. I've been with the company for a very long time, and have worked my way up from phone support, and have a ton of knowledge about the company, including policy and culture. I also have a relative who's worked HR for many years. So, the story. I've been working as a software tester for about 2 years doing manual testing. Our team was fairly unsupervised, so we didn't have a manager. The company was expanding quickly, so they hired us a manager. So, enters Jay. At first, things were fine. He was just learning the company. However, it was odd. He never asked anyone for any information. He just said he'd do his own research and spent the first month online reading stuff. Not sure what that taught him about our company specifically, though. After the first month, he hit the ground running. He immediately started creating automation tests, adding to the existing testing code, and creating stupid rules that made no sense. He broke tons of programs and took credit for work that wasn't his. Everyone hated him. For the most part, we all ignored him. As of this point, no one has specifically said that he was our manager. He was just here to provide direction. Fast forward a few months, and everyone on the team wants to quit. No one can stand him. He and I butt heads more so than others, because I know he's wrong, and I make my decisions based on the best interest of the customers. He hated that I never got in trouble, but I was hand-selected for our position by our CIO. He knows how hard I work. Well, Jay keeps trying to get me in trouble. He finally succeeds. I get a write-up from him that it's my final warning before termination. I've never been written up before. I talk to HR to review the company handbook, and then I go to HR with my write-up. I fight, and I win. I get a warning instead, and Jay is livid. He gives me the stink eye for a few months to follow. Fast forward again, and he's still after me. But I have a family emergency coming up. I have to move out of town. I apply to work from home, and my request is granted, and Jay cannot stand it. He tries to fight it and convince the company to not let me. However, he's not high up enough in the chain to override my approval from a level C manager. He's running out of time to get me fired. I'm in the office working late daily, planning for my move and finishing up some work to allow me time off for the move. One of the company's policies for our department is that everyone gets to work from home 1 day a week. You pick, as long as it isn't Monday or Friday. People often use this to work from home when sick. Well, I have a medical condition that sometimes require I take medicine, and that means I can't drive a car. I emailed the office to let them know that I was going to work from home due to being sick. I work for about 30 minutes, and then Jay sends me a message. He tells me that the employees are not allowed to pick when they work from home, and I need to take the day off and to use PTO, which is personal time off. I inform him that I've already worked a part of the day, and I can't take a personal day off. He insists that I stop working immediately, so I do. I then contact HR because I know he's coming after me. I confirm that as a salaried employee, if I work at all in a day, I cannot be required to take time off. HR confirms. I forward the email to Jay. Once again, I've won the game, and he is so pissed that I can see steam coming out of his ears every time he looks at me. The next day I'm back at work, Jay sends me an email with a final write-up with a recommendation for termination because I took an unauthorized day off. I immediately forward this email to HR with proof that he told me to take the day, a screenshot of all the conversations I had with him about it, and proof that I forwarded the previous HR decision to him. In the email, I also included that I was filing a formal complaint against him for a hostile workplace, targeting, bullying, retaliating, and a violation of my ADA rights. The response is swift, sweet, and awesome. I'm immediately notified by Jay's boss that moving forward, I directly report to him. My write-up had also been torn up, and I can start working from home immediately, prior to my move. Jay is demoted from being the manager of the team, and he's super pissed. Within 2 weeks, they demote him from being the manager of his other team, and then let him go within the month. Prior to him being fired, I got promoted up a level, and he could not stand it. After I showed his true colors to management, he began treating everyone else worse as I was now off limits. Complaints rolled in so much that they had to let him go. Serves him right. So I've worked for a few power tripping bosses before, and I can tell you it's a terrible experience just to be at work. This story is absolutely wonderful. There's far too many people out there that think just because they have the title of manager, supervisor, or whatever, that they can pick on people and treat them like crap. What a great revenge. So this happened several years ago. I was working for a small medical supply company as the IT manager. Business was bad, and eventually the IT department had to downsize to just me. During this time, they brought in a new CFO that I had to report directly to. Let's call her Pam. Pam had zero knowledge of IT and how things worked. Her motto was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The couple that owned the company were real scummy too. One time we had a quarterly meeting and people were asking about how secure their jobs were. The owners said nobody was getting laid off and that our jobs were all secure. That was 5 p.m. on a Wednesday. The very next morning at 9 a.m., they laid off 6 people. At noon, one of the owners showed up to show the Escalade that he had just purchased that morning. During the first 6 months that Pam was there, she started to fire everyone that worked for the old CFO and replace them with her friends and family. 3 of her bridesmaids from her wedding a few years ago got hired to replace those that she fired. I knew I was on borrowed time. After she had been there for 9 months, I was the only one left out of what was to be a dozen people that worked for the old CFO. I knew my time was running out. I had been looking for work, but the 2009 crash just happened, so the job market in my area went south quickly. Sure enough, she called me into HR and blindsided me with an entirely trumped up charge that she claimed happened the day before. I was working with the VP of sales on a project the entire day, so I had a witness. I asked to bring him in, since my boss was lying and was told, "This is not about him, this is about you." Needless to say, I knew my days were numbered. The next morning, I get introduced to an IT expert that just so happens to be Pam's 21-year-old nephew. He was to shadow me and evaluate everything I did to see if we could streamline my processes. In other words, they wanted me to train him to do my job. I quickly learned that this kid has absolutely no knowledge of IT. He's the kid that people think is an IT expert because he can hook up a PlayStation to a TV. He did not even know how to join a PC to a domain. So I knew what had to be done. The inventory, billing, and shipping and receiving were all run by scripts that I created on the server. They were all run using the domain admin account. I raised quite a fuss about giving him the domain admin account in front of Pam and him. I then loudly proclaimed that I was going to change the password to it, since you can't have people who don't work for the company have admin access to the network. I was overruled and was told to give it to him. I complied, but I also showed him multiple times how to change the passwords on the domain. I even had him write it down to make sure he could do it. I really stressed the importance of changing the admin password and deleting the local account the second he's no longer consulting with us to him. I showed him a few things, but nothing in regards to what really made the company run that day. There wasn't enough time in a year to bring this kid up to speed on how to run the place due to his complete ignorance of IT. I come into work the next day, and sure enough, I was let go because her nephew had found my skills lacking in many areas. I collect my last paycheck and head home. The next morning, I get a call from the CFO and the owners. Apparently her nephew wasn't quite up to speed on everything we did there, and she graciously offered to pay me my regular salary to come in as a consultant and get her nephew up to speed on the IT infrastructure. I told her that I was now an independent contractor, and if she wanted my services, I was going to charge her $200 per hour with a 250-hour minimum. At that point, she told me that she was going to call the police and have me arrested for what I did if I didn't come in and fix everything. My response was, "Just so we're clear, you fired me, replaced me with a completely unqualified idiot, and now you're threatening to call the cops on me if I don't come in to fix what he did? I'll hold. Please call the police and let me know what they said." She started to curse at me and I hung up the phone. It turns out her nephew did actually learn something from me. He changed the admin password after I left, the one that ran all the scripts for the inventory, billing, shipping, and ordering. According to some of my coworkers, the place was dead in the water for several days until they could get a real consultant to go through the documentation that I created to fix the issue. The nephew was immediately fired and Pam was gone within a month. I know Pam was doing a favor by bringing in people and giving them jobs, but that's the quickest way to destroy a company. So my friend had that happen to him. So he used to work at an express oil change and car repair shop, and the old owners sold the place and the new owners took it over and fired all of the staff there. And they did the same thing. They brought in their friends, family, whatever. And apparently they've gained a horrible reputation for doing crappy service and just really shoddy work. The place literally went downhill as soon as the new owners took over and fired everybody that worked there for 10 plus years. At least the owners in this situation recognized that Pam was the problem, and hopefully it saved their business. So my nephew Bob had a job of selling cell phones in a store in a mall. The store was owned by a licensed distributor of one of the big name brands. He was very good at convincing customers to buy calling plans, extended warranties, and accessories that were obscenely profitable. Pretty soon, he was the #1 salesman in the store. The owners asked him to transfer to their other store in a different mall, replacing the assistant manager who had just been fired. In addition to an increase in his base pay, he'd get a cut of every sale he made while he was in charge. It took him about 2 days to figure out why sales were down. Clueless sales reps and lousy management. The manager would disappear for hours at a time, leaving the sales reps to sit around ignoring customers. Most employees would show up late, leave early, or not even bother coming in at all. And when they did speak to a customer, they had no idea how to make a sale. On his first day, he outsold them all. After making sure the guys on his shift were actually doing their jobs, especially when it came to selling high-profit add-ons, the store's sales improved. The store manager saw what was happening and wasn't too happy. He knew that it was a matter of time before he was kicked out, and Bob took his job. So one day, they received a shipment of new phones. As usual, Bob signed for them and locked them in the storage closet. The next day was his day off. The manager called and insisted that he come in immediately because there was a problem. Overnight, someone had broken into the store and stolen about 100 of these brand new phones. The mall security camera showed 2 people driving up to the back door, opening it with a key, shutting off the alarm, and walking out with their phones. The police were called. He was grilled by the police for a couple of hours, but they had no evidence against him, and he had an alibi. But the manager convinced the owners that Bob was probably involved, since he had signed for the phones, had keys to the door and the storage closet, and he knew the alarm code. Bob argued that they hadn't changed the locks or code after they fired the previous assistant manager, and anyone could know about the shipment, but he was fired. Actually, they allowed him to resign, and they stiffed him on his last commission check. So at the other end of the mall was a store that sold phones for one of the competing cell companies. They knew that since he had joined the other store, their sales were suffering. They hired him on the spot, and sales improved overnight. One of his favorite tricks was to stand in front of the store and wait for a customer to walk by, carrying a shopping bag from the other store. He'd chat them up about their brand new phone, calling plan, warranty, etc. Then he would tell them that they probably did not need the extended warranty, and those accessories could be purchased at Walmart for half the price. He also told them that he could sell them the exact same phone with a better plan for less money. If they agreed, he would just walk them back to the other store and tell the clueless sales rep how to void the sale he just made, then bring the customer back to his store and pick up their new phone. It took about 3 months before the other store closed its doors. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/ProRevenge. If you missed the last episode of r/ProRevenge, OP gets revenge on his wife, who cheats with 15 people. Oh my goodness gracious. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.